So I'm going to be starting on the YZ80 now. It's a 1997, but the 1993 to 2001 with the same bikes, just different colours. So first of all, I've already banged that crank bearing out. And he's bought the transmission bearings, which are hot rod ones. I don't know where they're. Oh, they're in the freezer actually an hour ago. I've bought the crank bearings, they're in the freezer as well. Crank bearings are there in there. So we're going to knock these bearings out, the transmission ones. Get these two ones out with a puller. And then we'll start the rebuild. So just got them two little screws out of there to bang this bearing up. I'm just going to show this. This is where the stator lines up. See the line there for the timing? I'm certain on the proper stators, they've got three little notches. But look at this. This is the one that was in it. That's been cut off. Obviously a magic eye sensor. But the two, that hole there, is that hole there. If you watch the teardown video, and there's the two mounting holes. What these two holes are in. So it was in either this, it was in either that way, with the mounting hole, and the mounting hole was either in that way or the other way, but there's no way of setting the timing up. So like I say, somebody's cut that off to fit the flywheel over, because if that was still on, the flywheel won't go on. I don't know if this is off a YZ85 or not, but it's got no part numbers on. But anyway, we'll get the bearings out and then we'll get started on the rebuild. And that's all the bearings out. As soon as I took the screws out of them, that just pushed out, so it's slack. But it's got the screws keeping it in, which is good. But on this one, this just dropped straight out. And this one runs along your gear shaft. So I'm going to have to put Loctite around this bearing. Once I get this bearing out, I'll show what I mean, how easy this bearing goes in. Because if that bearing's slack, it comes along your gear shaft. Your gear shaft goes in there, your front sprocket. It comes up there and it moves out this ledge. And when your gear cogs are moving up and down, the gear cog won't push all the way down because this bearing's sticking out of here. And it bends all your gear selector forks. So I've had loads of bikes like that, where the bearings come out of here and this has been all slack. I don't know if it's the bearing weight or the casing slack, but all the bearings just pushed out so easy. Anyway, I'll get this one out. Get this one out now. And that's that little bearing out there. Out there. I couldn't get me little set wouldn't fit. So I'm going to start putting all the new bearings in. This one it'll just push in by hand. Normally you heat, when them froze, the bearing freezes and you heat the casing and it opens the hole, but on this one it's going to push in by hand. But I've got them two screws to Loctite, and the black bit there faces outwards. The clutch basket goes on there. So if you look at on the other side, it's got the ball bearing in. It's like a sealed case on this side. Anyway, we'll get that one in. Going to get that one in. Two crank bearings, that and that, and I've just left the seal in there because that seal is different to this other crank seal up there. There's the old bearings. I don't know if I just mentioned I've got that one to put in as well, the little one, which is there. They're the new ones. There's the old ones up there. One of the new ones, the hot rods. I might even have it rated on somewhere. This is 07. Anyway, get them in. We've got the two crank bearings to go in as well. All these in now. Now whilst that one's in, I'll just Loctite them two screws and put them in before I put the rest of the bearings in. So that's them two Loctited in now. I've put some Loctite into that bearing, because normally you'd have to heat the casing, but like I say, when it popped out I just tapped it with them and it popped straight out. And when I pushed it halfway in, it went in by hand. So I've Loctited it like there, so when it's on the bike it can't, as I said earlier in the video, so it can't come out and move along the gear shaft and stop your gear shafts, your gear sprockets moving up and down. So it just bends all the selector forks and you can't get your gears. So I've had loads of bikes like that, as I said before as well. Keep forgetting what I'm saying, it's hard to edit these videos. But now anyway, when we get that bearing in, I'll be heating up round there. The bearing still froze. I think it's this one what goes in that one. No, it's that little one. So we'll get that little bearing in next. Just push it in there. And then we'll get the crank bearings in. Different sizes. That little crank bearing goes in there. We've got the bigger crank bearing. What goes in there like that. Anyway, we'll get these two little bearings in. Got one to go in there, which is that one. And that one to go into there. And that's that bearing in. And the little needle bearing in. Now I'm going to put the crank bearing in this side. Because I've took the seal out, so I know which seal to put in. Then I can put this crank bearing in and take that seal out. So after all this time of waiting, when I've put all the bearings in and about to put the seals in, the centres the two crank bearings out what are wrong. That's the right one. That's the wrong one. Wrong. Gear shaft. So I'll just push that in now by hand. That in. So I'm just going to put the new front sprocket one in. TC 20, 38, 5. 38 means the outside diameter. 20 means the inside diameter. And the 5 means the length there, the width. So just push that in. Just go in by hand. And I'll just put a bit toilet roll in there like I have with that one, just to save any muck getting in. Because anyway, can't do nothing until these have created a return on eBay, so I have to wait for these now. But I've got that bearing in, and that little needle bearing in as well. And the two new bearings that come today, I've just checked them. That's a 6, where's the number? Don't know if you can see it. 6304 C3. That one fits in that perfect. That's the 6304 C3 as well. It doesn't fit in that one. So I'm going to have to send this one back again this time. But I'm going to get this one in now. So we're going to heat the casing up. These have been in the freezer an hour and a half now. So I'm just going to heat this up to expand that. This bearing's freeze so it's cool, so it's shrunk. We'll just tap it in, put it into this side. So we'll get this one in now. I'm going to have to get the number down. I'll put it on the screen which one I need. But we'll get this one in now anyway. So we'll just heat this up. Don't have to heat up for much because you'll stretch the aluminium. Plus these bearings, some of them just slot straight in anyway, so I don't want to give it too much heat. Just turn it down a bit. And that'll do. So we'll get this bearing in. Just get the little mash hammer, wherever it's at. And we'll just go around. If you hear the sound of the noise I'm banging it in, you'll hear the difference when it seats to the bottom. Just go around all corners. Always hit the outer race, never hit the inner race. Some people put big sockets on, but the sockets slip off and go into this middle bit of the bearing. It's nearly there. That's it all in flush. So that's that bearing in. Now I'm going to have to order another bearing. The other bearings come the day. That's the one when I sent away for the two crank bearings. And you see on that one, 6304. And the one in this side, 6304 at the top there. The one in the freezer's been in an hour, so I'll get it out now. And that's 6204. As you can see, it fits nice. So I'm just going to heat this case up because this is freezing. This will be shrunk. So I'm just going to heat that case up and get this bearing in. Then I can get this engine done tonight. That's that bearing in all nice and snug now. Right into the bottom. Like I say, you hear it when it seats. The noise changes because it's metal. bearing onto this. It's metal on metal. 6204. So remember, this one's 6204 and this one is 6304. If you ever have a bit muddled up buying crank bearings for these, because that's 2 sets I've bought now and they've sent the wrong ones out. So now all the bearings is in the crank. I'm going to put the crank in through this side, which is that side. I haven't put the seal in yet because I might have to put the crank puller tool on to pull the crank through. But I'm going to clean all this black stuff off. All this, I've cleaned some of it. Just get this black old sealant off, and then we'll pull the crank through. So that's all the black stuff off. Just make sure you clean all the dust out, especially in the reed area. Now we're going to get that crank seal, which is the largest diameter one. That's the crank seal. So we get that one because there's a bush. This bush fits through there and the crank fits through the bush. But I'm going to put this on now. I might just push on by hand. That's the seal in. Just push it in by hand, just till it's all flush, all the same flushness all the way around. So now just lube inside that seal. We're using gearbox, transmission oil, engine oil. Just lube around there, lube in the side of that bearing, and get the crank. This side's going in. So get the nut and the washer off. Just looks like that. That's the nut, and that's the washer. That's where the square woodruff key goes. Semicircular one goes on the other side. So anyway, we're going to lube that up as well. That's lubed up now. Just push that over there. Always have it on a stand, so this stands off the floor. So when the crank drops through, it doesn't hit the floor. It's like you've got a gap. Anyway, so before it goes in, it'll always have to be pulled through. That's why I've left the seal off. Kind of easy. So now get the bush of the collar, lube that up as well. On the outside and the inside. Just lube in there again, just a bit round there, around the top end. And this just slides in, doesn't matter which way it goes, you can see wear marks. Just slides on, pushes in, and that's that in there, that's the collar in. Now I'll put the primary drive on. Just find the woodruff key, the square one. Even the flywheel. That's the square woodruff key. So we'll just get this off, lube in there. That's the woodruff key in. See it slot into that slot at the top. There, like that. Now we'll put the primary drive on, which is that. So it doesn't matter which way it goes on either. You can only go on one way actually. Just lube in there and in the woodruff key slot, and slide that on. And that's the primary drive on. And you've got that washer and that nut. Do the water pump seal now, so I can be banging on instead of banging on later. Just to get it off, just put a screwdriver in there. It will just pop off. With 2 little screws underneath. I'll just find that later. So there'll be this one little washer, there'll be one underneath, and there'll be a metal bar underneath as well, keeping the shaft in. There's one, the other one will just look the same. So we've got that. Oop, there's the metal bar what's just dropped. It sits into there and goes through that hole there. So we'll put that up there. There's the other washer. Just pull that off, look. Just push the shaft out actually to get that one off. There's the other washer, just the same as that one. Always check round there for cracks or missing teeth, because my friend had one and there was 2 teeth missing there, and every time it was running here off the primary drive, or the clutch that runs off the primary drive, and with these it was either 1 or 2 missing. When it was running, it was just staying still, it wasn't catching, so there was just a gap there and it was just missing. It seized his bike up, so always check them for cracks. And that looks alright out, as long as there's no cracks or missing teeth. Right, now we can push the impellers fell off, and they're not bolted on them either. Where did that go? I heard something drop. I checked this water pump impeller shaft against the DTR. You can see on there it's been glued in before, or it's melted. I don't know what it is, but it does look like glue. You see on the top. And yeah, that's the old one. And it's got that written on 36F, 36F. Check the DTR one. 36F. So it is sealed in. Oh, that's good than that. So let's see if buying a YZ one, because I bet a YZ one would be dear, even though they're just the same. My phone's on charge and I can't get the torch on, but just make a note of how it's sitting and just bang something through there to get out. They're hard to get out. So that's the water pump seal out. Just going to clean all in there. Get all this old gasket off as well. Now my phone's charged, my torch is on. Just cleaned out all in there. Got all the old gasket off. Gonna put the new water pump seal in. It goes in that way. That writing around there normally says water seal, and that's the other side. But it goes in that way. I'm sure I'll have to watch the video back that it was in that way. But going that way anyway, and they're hard to get in. That's why I'm doing it now, because it'll take some banging. It'll be too late to bang on. So you can push most ones in by hand, but not this one. So I'll get this tap in. Just make sure that's flush when it goes in. So that's the water pump seal in. All as flush as it can be. If it's not in as flush, I'll show you in a minute, but that's the way it goes. Like I said before, it normally has water side right in there. We'll just loop this new water impeller up and shaft. I'll show you the old one. It's all melted around there. It doesn't look melted off heat, it looks like it's been burnt in a fire or something. But anyway, just push this through. Just slide through. It's got grease in it, but I've put a bit, like I say, it's got, normally got grease in that seal. I've put grease on the back of this, the seal as well. So then get one washer, which is that. Just slide it on. And if you haven't pushed your seal in enough, this won't go in. Slides in that hole there. So if you've got your seal in enough, that'll go in good. Just pushing it slowly till it goes about halfway. Pushes about there. Then get that. After you've checked it all, and this was, we've already checked this, it's all alright. So we need that bar fit into that square. That's it fitted on. Then you get that next little washer, put that on. Then just get the circlip, just push it on, just nip it on with some pliers. Just nip it on at here, click, make sure it's in every groove. So that's the water pump done. So that's how you build your water pump seal. It's nice and tight as well, hands turning. because this is what would happen before. This is the one what was in. When that was getting turned, this would have just kept still, look. It's come off. It does look like it's been glued before around the bottom. But if you look closely, I looked before. I don't know whereabouts there. Let's see if I can zoom in. Right there, look at the burn marks. So that's why the bike's probably seized up in the first place. The water pump hasn't been pumping water through. When the engine's been turning this impeller, it'll just be still like that. Instead of turning like that and pumping water through, but it's just been still. So now I'm going to put the gearbox in. I've just been trying the bearings out. When you push that in, it's dead hard to get in. You've got to hammer it in, so it might be hard to get the gearbox in, but I'll show how to put it. You've got that centre fork. It's different to the other two. It's got nothing written on. It just goes on this little bar. I've already looped these bars up. You've got that bar there with a circle up at the bottom. You've got two selector forks. That's got 4 yes written on with R5 there. So you get that bar. The R5 goes on there. So there's the circlip. There's the R5. I've already looped this up as well. There's the 4 yes L5. That goes that way. You've got your selector drum that fits into there, into these holes. Just make sure them pointers, when you put it in, face through these gaps, so they're not in these metal gaps, or it'll snap them off. When it goes in that way. So that top one has got to go in there, that bottom one's got to go in there, and that runner, just forget about the middle one. That's for this one. I'll show that in a bit after I've done this. So first, you get this gear sprocket. There's where your front sprocket fits. Remember, it has a little washer on that side, which is there on the front sprocket side. That bit's going into the engine, so that bit's going through that bearing, and that bit is going through this bearing here, which is tight. Get that and that, so it's like that. There's the circlip, there's R5, there's L5, there's the bearing, and the bit what fits through there. You've got that runner there, what moves, and that runner there, and that's what the forks go over. So get the forks over both of them like that. Try and keep it all at what is one unit, because it is tricky to get in. Just have to put it flat to do it. Then get this one. See, I've already lubed that up and tried it through that bearing, and it's tight. That's what's going to make this hard. So we get that shaft, join it up with that shaft, and have it all as one unit like that. It's complicated to keep together. Just want to keep everything in place. It would have slid down if it went through that bearing, but it hasn't. That's the problem I've got. So I've had to put the gearbox in this way, because that shaft wouldn't go through the bearing properly. Now these two selector forks into the grooves. I've had to put it on that way because of that shaft not popping out the bearing. I couldn't get in, but now what's easier, leave this one to last. I haven't pushed that gear selector drum all the way in. The bearing's still sticking out. I think you can see in there. It's just popping through the case, and there's the two shafts sort of through. But I haven't hammered it all the way down yet. Should get this. See it on camera. Get this middle one. Lift it up. Leave the bar out. It's already lubed. Lift that up. Fit it into the middle runner of this as you've lifted the slider up. Then fit it into the middle runner of the shaft drum, which is that one there, what it's just went new. And the bar just slides in. And that's the middle runner in. And now everything should just tap down. That's the gearbox in. If it's spinning all freely, it's in good. Changing it, all the gears alright as well. So now all the gearbox is in. I've just put the crank seal in. I've just lubed it and lubed inside that bearing because we're putting this case onto the top now. Lubed all these. Remember that little washer on top of there. I don't know if you can see it. Remember to put that on before we pull the casing together. So I'm going to blue hile them all around here and then let it dry for 20 minutes once it's on to just the solvent evaporates. I've cleaned round both sides, both surfaces. Just make sure there's none. I've oiled round those as well on each stopper because them sometimes rust. But then you'll get the blue hylam on, let it rest for 20 minutes. It's just that's the best stuff I use. If you Google up, it tells you if you're unsure about it, because some people say use Yamaha Bond, or I forgot a few names, but just whatever you want to use really, you just Google it and see what a Google review, what other people say about it. But I recommend blue hylam, or that's what I've always used anyway. I've never used anything else. And that's all it is. You just splat it on there like that. But we'll go all the way around. Doesn't matter what you put on. The more the better. As long as it's on the proper. And try and get lots on the bottom. Because this is where all the oil is going to be lying when the bike's upright. Just make sure you get plenty on. So I'm going to go around, get all that done. And just one thing, don't forget to do that bit up there at the top of your reeds after you've done all this. Because if you don't do that when you nip the case, you'll have an air leak off there. So remember to put blue hylam on there as well. So that's all blue hylam up for 20 minutes to let the vapours evaporate out the blue stuff. So just, like I said, I've already put that seal in, lubed them up, lubed all this. Take that nut off the top of the crank. Just see how far it goes on. It'll not go all the way, but it'll go somewhere. Then I'll have to get the crank puller to pull it, like to push this casing down. That's how far it went. So I'll get the crank puller on there. push that front down instead of rubber malleting, because on the old engines, when you rubber malleted it, when you rubber malleting them down, you're tapping, and there's that bearing in there what I showed before, what I put below high them on. When you're tapping it, because you're tapping it here and you here and you here with your mallet, if that bearing in there on the front sprocket slack, it's going, when you're tapping it's coming out the groove, so when you're nipping the engine up it's out the groove. That's how I found out that to blue high them all them in if they're slack, because they do roll down the shaft, so it's best to get a crank puller on. Just pull it and it nips it up easy and gently, but we'll get the crank puller on. So you've got your tool like that, you can go like that so it's flush. Just have it like that, tighten it all up. You've got that part, put that part first over your crank, then that nut with the little one, because you get two in the kit, one to the other side of the crank, that one into there, just tighten it up, just tighten it on the end of the crank, make sure you tighten it right on so it's on loads of threads, so it's just been on a couple, so it's tight there. Just make sure the crank's still sticking out the top, inside. Then get that bit, and it screws into this silver bit here, so just screw that into there, it's in tight like that. And if you can see that marking there, it fits up with that marking, and you line it up with this hole at the top, so that comes through, this bolt here comes through the top, so we'll slide that down over this marking. That's it over the marking now. Then get your big nut, put it over the top of this, which is like that. Just screw all the way down. That's on tight now. Now just get a spanner on the top of this, on that nut, and tighten it. Make sure it's going down equally. Might have to tap this side with a rubber mallet, but we'll do that now. Get the spanner on there. As you're tightening it up, that nut, keep hold of this crank puller still, and just keep looking at each side. Going down equally there. Just give it a little tap. That's it all tightened up. That's it. Get this off now. Make sure the crank's slack. Just put that nut back on the end of the crank. That's pulled, if you can see on camera there. That's all pulled nicely. The crank's all going round proper. So now I'm just going to get all the bolts in round here. The ones in here as well, and get the stator in. Get the woodruff in before I put the stator in. The little woodruff key on this side. Now I've got the clutch and that to put on that side. That's how you tell your gearbox is working. And it's just running smooth like that. So the gearbox is alright. That hasn't been torqued up yet, but do that one. We'll put the clutch basket on and everything else on. So we'll get the bolts in, and this is what I made when I stripped it, so I know which bolt goes where. I can see that must be that will be the front sprocket. These would be the 4 what go in the crank. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that'll be 1, and they'll be the 4 what go in the crank. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll get these in anyway. That's what it's like, just so you remember which way the bolts go, because they're all different sizes. So we'll get them in now. And that's all the screws in off the cord. The only one what was left, which is rounded, which I'm going to replace, was that one there, which is this one. I've put the bolts all in all the other holes. One round here what you can't see on camera. That one, that one, that one. So it's just that one, but I'll put it in anyway. It's that one I've put in. Put that one in there. That one there. As I've just said anyway. So we're going to tighten all them up now on this side. So that's everything on this side. All the bolts are tightened apart from that. Put the front sprocket on. There's a bit slack. I don't know if it's the right one. It might be worth getting a new front sprocket because there's a new chain in there for it. Put that circuit on. Make sure it's on. Now we can move around the other side now. Start getting the clutch on. First, we've got these 3 gear sticks. That's the wrong one what was ordered. What he ordered first, listed as a YZ80, but when I've looked, it's a YZ100 or a YZ85, and he can't get his refund off that. It's cost £90. But this is the proper one, the 4ES one. You see the grooves there for these. So we've got to put all this off here onto this shaft now. You can see the shafts on the end. So we'll do that now. So that's all the stuff off the old one. We'll put everything onto this new one. So firstly, this black spring fits down there. Clips over that. Like that. So that's that on. We've got a circlip goes there. That's the circlip on. You've got that for the neutral, for the selector shaft, and you've got that for the selector drum with the circle. That fits on that way, so it'll be looking like that. Then it's another circlip. Just push it on, get the pliers. That circlip in. Just make sure it's in the groove. Then we've got this collar. Slides down onto there like that. And we've got this spring. It looks like there, that way. It goes on that way. With the shorter bit on the right. It's down there. Over that little collar. And then we've got one last circlip to put on. That's the circlip one. Screw around it, make sure it's in the groove properly, which it is. So that's that gear selector shaft done. You can see the circle there. That circle is to line up with neutral on this. the only one with no point, and I think that's what I'm touching. That's got a point, that's got a point, that one's got a point, that one's got a point. This one's neutral, so I'm going to fit this. We'll have this in neutral, so it fits straight onto there, it's easy to work on. This is how you fit it. As it goes on, it looks like that. Get that bit of metal there, this spring, and that bit of spring there, and put this bit on first. Just push it through. Already loop the seal up, just loop on there. So just push that through. Then on that bar there, you can see it on camera. That bar there goes on the outside of this bit. But bar there, what you can see coming up, has to fit back over this bar. So just push it on like that and get it like that. And just push it on like that. And that's it on now. So it'll spring back onto the gear selector, the drum, and we want it lined up with neutral, which is that circle behind. So once this is pushed on, we'll just have that in neutral position. So just spin that back round now. Put out the touch. Just get it in. Spin that back round. And then this two bits go over that black bar as well. That black bar is the black bar what the two selector forks run on the gearbox. So just push it all in, push that up over neutral. And that's it, how it should all look. You see how the circles went on the neutral straight away. And that's the best to work in there, neutral. So see we're in fifth now. Fourth, third. See, you didn't click there. Second, you've got to turn these to click them in. Second, first. That must be second actually, because there's neutral, and that's first there. So that's first. And then when I click it back, you can see the circle, that's neutral. So watch when I click it back, you'll see that onto the circle, onto neutral. And that's neutral there. So the gears are all on and working. So now we'll get the kickstart shaft in, kickstart idler, and we'll leave the clutch basket till last. We've still got to torque the primary drive nut up as well. So we'll get the kickstart shaft now. That's the kickstart shaft. That back bit goes in. That clips it. That's the stop of that bit. That stops on here. If it's set wrong, it'll go past that or stop here. And you've got that spring which fits into this slot here, and then this spring here, it's on all kickstarts. It pulls round with tension, and it'll pull all around here into a hole in the. There's normally a hole here. Right, I've never seen them here, but there's normally a hole here or here to put the end of that spring in. And then when it's on, you make sure that spring is in that. You see it there through the top. You see the spring going into this shaft. You see that spring into the shaft. That just plastic keeps it in. So anyway, it just slots in. It's being looped up. There's a stop run at the back. That spring's in there. So you just pull this spring round into here, pull it back, and push it into that hole there. Just make sure everything's in. Just push that plastic casing in, but it's always in. It doesn't pop out. Plus, when you put your casing in on the clutch casing up there, there's like an inset on the inside what slots into there through this spring. It like keeps that pushed in anyway, so that can never pop out. Right, now we'll get the kickstart idler on. It's like that. I've lubed the two washers. They're both exactly the same, dead thin like that, so you can't get them muddled up. There's only one circlip, and there's that cog you see on the teeth there, look. And then if you turn it over, you can see on the teeth, see the screws on the right hand side, whereas the other teeth haven't. That's the way it come off, so that's the way it's going back on. Because them teeth, what if like that, must line up with that. So anyway, this is lubed up. Put one washer on, then put that on that way. Like I say, with all the flat teeth there, you can see there on the other side. See now they've all got a groove. Anyway, put that on. That what the noise was. I thought I dropped something. Then put that washer on, and then just that's the circlip what goes on the end. Just make sure the circlip's in. That won't come off there. So that's the kickstart idler on now. Now we're going to put the clutch on. I've got the basket. Sometimes there's a washer on the back of the arm clutches. This one hasn't got one. So anyway, it's lubed up. Just push it in. Still remember we've got to torque that up. Now there'll be a spline washer what fits on there, and then the boss goes in. We'll get that washed. There it is there. Lube that up, put that on next, and it just slots over there like that. It should lock behind these. If it doesn't lock, just pull this out. And there it's locked behind now. Now we're on this side, we'll put a penny in there to tighten the stator and the flywheel up. So I'm not putting nothing through the crankshaft. I'm holding the crankshaft when I'm locking these nuts. This one or the primary drive, because it puts pressure on your big end bearing. So first we'll have to go and find one of these, same length as that. Looks like about the 60. There's a good bolt. We'll just put this one in before we start. So we'll put the stator on. Take that nut off. I'm sure those were the two screws that kept it in. I can't find the other one, but they screwed up anyway, so I'll find some new screws like that, because that's been banged out. You can see where I've chiseled it out. I don't know if I had to chisel the last stator out or not, unless that's something of something else. So now we're going to put the stator on, which is the proper one, the 4ES with the timing mark at the bottom, what lines up with the timing mark down there. So we'll just put this on. It's always best to put the flywheel in actually, and the woodruff key, the woodruff key and the clutch ball bearings just in the old flywheel, just keeps them safe. So just put that in now, just slots in that gap. It's hard to get on sometimes when you put the stator on. That'll be alright there. We'll get the stator on. That's the timing notch down there, if you can see. This bit lines up with that line there. So I'll have to find what size screws go into that hole and that hole, just to keep the stator from moving. But at least the proper stator's in now, which is good. Just push that in now just to keep it still, just so it doesn't drop out. I'll go and find, I go and check what size screws fit this stator. That's it. So I'm just going to put them 2 screws in the stator. If you use a good jizz bit, they fit good. You'll see a jizz on there, and there, jizz, Japanese industrial standard screw or something like that. But they fit good. First I'm Loctiting them. Just I can't find any that size with washers on. Put plenty on as well, just in case. Just don't want the stator moving. Oh, they're both nice and tight, they won't move. So now, get the flywheel on. And that flywheel is the new one, would come with this stator. That's on what was on the bike. But if you look, you see the marks where the woodruff keys go. Show something. See a line there on the bottom, a line there on the bottom on each flywheel. I'll try and keep it still. You move around, the woodruff keys in the same position. They're the same height. I haven't weighed them. Wait to put them flat down like that. I'm not on a bench. They're both exactly the same. Same inside. So I'm going to put the newer one on that come with it. So I'm just going to put a bit of grease in there first and slide it over the woodruff key. And that's the woodruff key in the shaft. Just push it all back in, because sometimes it does pop out. So I'm going to slide the flywheel over that. Just put a bit of grease in. Just grease in there. Push this on. Slide the woodruff key up with the top. You feel it just slide on. Yeah, that's the woodruff key on. So we'll get the mirror on. There should be a washer in there, but there wasn't one when I took it off. I'll see if I can find a washer to put in there. So I've just got one of them, it'll be alright. Get the nut on. And then we'll get the penny into there. It's either in the top or the bottom, one of the two anyway. Just when I'm tightening the flywheel nut up, Just locks in there. We've been softer than the metal. It doesn't damage this metal. So we'll just get that penny. Just keep it pushed in the top. Get the torque setting for that nut, and I'll tighten it up. So the torque setting's 40 Nm, which is 40 Nm there, with the 0 on the line in the middle of the 40. So we'll just tighten that up with the penny in there. That's it done. Take the penny out there now, because the flywheel's on. There's the penny there. Just get the clutch back. That's what it does to the penny. Just with it being softer than the metal, it doesn't damage none of your gears. So it saves wedging screwdrivers in and stuff like that. Anyway, we're back on this side now. Just check it off for some smoothness. Now we'll get the torque setting for this bolt. We'll torque that up as well with the penny in. That's it done. So that's that torqued up. Had to put the penny under that side to torque that bolt up. Now we can get the inner clutch in. There'll be a circle on it. That circle faces the top. Show all the back for bits of stuff. So that circle goes to the top. Then there'll be the retainer plate, which is lying about in these parts over here. Put that on soon. So now what I always do to remind us on about putting the push rods in. Let's have one of those in there ready. They're the push rods that was on it. You see the way off the ball bearing. And he says it was hard to pull the clutch in. So I've got them two to go in. Tiny bit of way on there, but won't matter. There's none on that side. Tiny bit on that side. But I'll just put that side into that hole there, and that's hitting the clutch, the arm on the other side. So the ball bit's still flat. Anyway, just grease that up. Grease that push rod in up. Push it in there. Then you get the little ball bearing, which is that. I've just greased that up. That just goes in that hole. Make sure it goes in. Then just push them, that push rod and the ball bearing through. Then you've got this washer and this nut. Just get them on. We'll taut them up. So that's the clutch holding tool on, just to keep the centre still. So if not, when you turn that nut, the full thing just spins. That's that torqued up. Just grease this other push rod up now. Pull this on with the grease. Which is that one. Just pushes in there like that. Just test your arm. Make sure it's pushing. Because sometimes when you're messing on like that, like I've just been doing the nut when you tip the engine, the ball bearing will drop out. So that's how that goes. We'll get the clutch on next, the plates, and out the basket. Make sure that circle's at the top. Now we can get the clutch plates in. I had them in a dish rather than overnight. So we'll just start putting that in. Friction plate first. Then a metal plate on. If you look, there's no notches on the set them, but if you look, see if you look on that back one there, this side's all flat. Then the other side of it, the top of it's like curved. So put them all in the right way. So if that's going in flat like that, put the next one in flat. Yeah, you can tell the difference. The bottom one's flat, the top one's got like a curve on. Anyway, a metal plate now. That's all the plates on. Try and wrap this oil up now. Now get the front part of the clutch. That circle there lines up with that circle there on the top. So we'll just put that on. Then we've got the 5 washers and the 5 little nuts. Just put them on a star pattern when you're tightening them up. Tighten that one, 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 that one in a sequence. Don't just tighten one then the other, because you'll bend it. So we'll tighten them up. So that's the clutch basket tightened up with the 5 screws tightened. Just wipe the oil off the bottom there, because put the gasket on next in this side casing. So put the clutch basket on. Put over that stopper there. The other stoppers up there in the casing in here. So just instead of pushing the casing all the way on, leave a gap. I'll show you why in a minute. See that in a little bit kickstart. Right, that's the casing now it's meant to be on. There's a gap of about 3mm. I'll show. Best to get your bolts before you nip the casing up. Put them through. Make sure they go through the gaskets properly. Sometimes if you nip it up and you just nip all the bolts up, the gasket goes out of shape and the bolt holes are off and you end up cutting your gasket. So just do that all the way around. That one there off there to go through. Got the bottom sump bolt there to go through as well. That's one through alright. Put that kickstart bolt back in there. Loctite that back on when we put the kickstart on. Now just tighten all these bolts. Find one for there. Find one for here. And that's that case on. Then I'll put the water pump case on. And that's the bottom end rebuild. Now just get the water pump gasket. Just put on. Got your 3 bolts. And then 2 ones longer than the other. That's the bottom end done. I'll just quickly Just make sure everything's working on the kickstart. Swing it back, which it is. So let's put them there. That's that side. That's all done. Just needs the casing put on in the gasket. But that'll be on in the next video. Alright, thanks for watching.